Hey friends, welcome back to the channel with more Squid Game, and oh my god, it's been over a week since I left off with that cliffhanger. I've been so frustrated wanting to get back to this show, but editing it took forever. So yeah, they took 3 steps forward, incredibly risky and desperate move. Hope it works out, and then we'll be down to 40 people in the next game. And this show has been fascinating thus far, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Get to know our other characters a little better, all of that. So take a quick moment to leave a like. We are 2 episodes ahead on Patreon or more. I'll let you know in the comments if it's more. But full reactions are available on Patreon too, so check that out. And let's get started. Oh! Pull! Oh shoot! Gi-hun! He was just dangling there for a bit. Alright, don't give him a second to get up. It's over, it's over. Whoa! So you could die falling off just from the weight of the other people, too. Oh, man. That was fantastic. Yikes. This is the first time they've had to kill other people, though.
아저씨, 당신이 지금 살아서 혀를 놀리고 있는 건 저 할아버지랑 막판에 기가 막힌 잔머리고 일리신 저 아저씨 덕분이라고.
내가 그들의 희생과 주님의 선택에 감사하며 기도를 올리는 것이다.
지랄. 지 손으로 죽여놓고.
Ooh. Cannot deal with the guilt of that.
오늘 힘을 합쳐 많은 인간들을 주님 곁으로 보내드렸습니다. 앞으로 더 많은 인간들을 주님 곁으로
Oh my god. Surprised. 3 women and an old man. And the person you betrayed came back too. She's gonna kill you. Ooh. Oh. Wow.
숨이 멎어서 빨리 의사는 불러와.
그리고 오빠.
Oh, come on. Oh my god.
한 거야. 완전 멋진 터져.
Oh my god.
막 울면서 미쳤어.
Oh, I love Ollie.
근데 아주머니는 왜 쫓겨났어요?
오빠. 다 아주머니 아니야.
만 버렸어요. 체격 좋은 놈들만 뽑고. 그것도 게임 직전에. 무슨 게임을 할지 꼭 미리 안 것처럼.
약한 쪽을 골라서 우리가 먼저 칩시다.
Wow. Man of God.
분이 더 살벌하네.
우리 모두 죄인입니다.
내 앞에 있던 남자가 어떻게 죽었는지 알아? 자기 편인 줄 알았던 인간한테 목이 꺾였어.
Ooh.
당신들 나 믿어?
일단 지키는 게 우선입니다. 불이 꺼지기 전에 바리케이트를 칩시다.
Barricade.
엄폐물이 있으면 의지가 될 거예요.
Good idea.
살아보겠다고 용을 쓰는구나.
내 팀이라는 저 쓰레기 같은 인간들을 정말 믿는 거야?
Ooh. Ooh. No, you don't. No, you don't.
나 같으면 불 꺼지고 싸움이 나면
Wow.
기회 봐서 너부터 죽일 거야.
Play mind games with them. I love it.
네가 제일 쉽게 공격은 못하겠지만 혹시 모르니까 한 명씩 돌아가면서 불침번을 섭시다.
2명씩 한 조로 해.
늙으면은 잠이 안 오거든.
영감님, 우리가 초장부터 노인네를 믿고 어떻게 2 다리 뻗고 잡니까?
It's only because of him that you're still alive.
이건 먹어요. 아까 식사 시간에 안 먹고 아껴둔 겁니다. 사장님 주려고.
Aww.
가족은?
Wife and
그리고
kid.
한국에 와이프랑 베이비 있습니다.
몇 살인데?
1살 아들입니다.
God damn.
미안. 병정들이 너 못 믿겠다고 없애자는 거 내가 막았어.
Now there's this whole organ harvesting thing that he's got to do.
싸우나?
교대하려고.
What? Oh, he's remembering when someone died on the job. This is what happened?
옛날 생각이 났어요.
옛날 생각?
예전에 다니던 회사에서 파업을 했어요.
맞아. 10년 전쯤인 거야. 자동차 회사에서 큰 파업을 했었어. 거기서 사람이 죽었지 아마.
You feeling alright, man? Oh, jeez.
영감님, 괜찮으세요?
익었어.
Aww.
좀 쉬세요. 기운 차리셔서 내일 또 같이 게임하셔야죠. 고맙다.
그냥 준 거 아니야. 내일 물 받으면 갚아.
이제 알려줘. 다음 게임 뭐야?
우리도 아직 몰라.
무슨 소리야?
지금 당장 안 할래 그래. 돌아가서 기다려. 게임 전에는 알려줄 테니까.
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa.
그리고 넌 저놈이 돌아올 때까지 여기 나랑 같이 있는 거야. 지금 계속 이러고 있다간 더 위험해져. 아침 점심 시간까지 돌아가야 돼. 잠깐. 열쇠가 가야지. 여기 내 오른쪽 주머니에 위층 열쇠가 있어.
What's the plan here? You're all gonna go down for this.
이 통로는 비상시에 VIP들을 대피시키려고 만든 거야.
VIPs?
다 빠져나오고 나면 그걸 터뜨려서 여길 다 묻어버리려는 거야.
Wow. He's asking a lot of questions he should know the answer to, I feel like.
29번.
Oh, yeah.
호기심만 많은 게 아니라 목소리도 달라진 것 같네.
Crap.
얼굴 좀 볼까? 누구야 너?
Ooh.
얼굴 좀 볼까? 죽여서 확인할까?
진작에 아직 수습할 수 있어. 여기서 참가자가 사라지면 문제가 되지만 병정 하나 사라진 건
와우.
아무 문제도 안 돼.
지금 중요한 건 니들이 이렇게 만든 사람이 누군지야. 니들이 좀비라고 부른 사람, 그 콩팥 하나가 어딘 줄 알아? 여기
Ooh.
이 안에 있어. 여자였어.
Really?
남자 아니야.
Oh.
나도 너랑 똑같은 사람이야. 취침 시간이 끝나기 전에만 돌아가면 우리 둘 다 살 수 있어.
Really?
가서 그 얼굴부터 씻자고.
그년 배 가르기 전에 우리가 돌아가면서 그 집까지 했는데
Oh, you sick
설마
fucks.
남자한테 그랬겠냐고.
You have to kill him. You have to.
여기서 네 형 찾는 거 내가 도와줄게.
No, you won't.
우리가 한 팀이 되면은
You have to. There was no other choice there.
이곳에서 가장 중요한 걸 망쳐놨어. 평등이야.
Equality?
이 게임 안에선 모두가 평등해.
Oh, yeah, sure.
너희들이 그 원칙을 깼어.
Sounds like a lot of bull.
죄송합니다.
Oh. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. He heard it. Captain's quarters?
28번입니다.
한 놈이 더 있어. 이놈을 죽인 놈.
What you doing? What you doing? Oh, sticking out the slug to see. Is that a police issued gun? Did you bring your police gun with you? $1999? Why did it... It didn't open to number 1. Did he just flip past it by accident? Or...
일어나. 일어나.
영감님이 몸이 많이 안 좋으세요.
Round 6. List of winners. 황인호. What? Brother? Wait a second. You're telling me another brother of his won the games in 2015, 5 years ago? What? And he never found out. And the brother didn't come back and like shower the family with money? But there are at least 20 winners out there who just have so much money and we don't know what happened to them. Oh man. They didn't come back and like, I don't know, try to stop this shit from happening? From having people exploited and murdered and... This is all really fascinating. Son of a... do you guys remember the second guy to die in Red Light, Green Light? It was the guy who bet his friend which one of them could win and wound up running and getting shot in the back. I've been assuming since this very second episode that he's the younger brother of the undercover cop. They looked kind of similar to me. I actually mistook the cop for his dead brother, or who I thought was his dead brother in that episode. And yeah, I really appreciate everybody on Patreon not correcting my mistake and letting me think I was right. Because I don't think the writers and directors even meant for us to think that the second guy to die was the brother, but it worked so well on me. And the fact that no one knew each other's names definitely helped play into that. But turns out now that the brother won the games in 2015, which just, what the heck? And how did he keep his money a secret from his own family? Why did he do that? And why did he rent such a tiny, tiny apartment? Because, yeah, his whole family thought, his brother thought that he was poor enough to get roped into these games and become a victim of them. And yet, turns out he was the winner of one of them. And the fact that he's missing now of all times is highly suspicious. I understand why our undercover cop thought his brother was a victim in all this, but he must be here at the games in some capacity, right? He saw the card, and so he has to be here. And my first thought is that he's the man in the black mask. That's the only person in this scenario who we've seen that isn't hard up for cash. Because if he won that much money, I don't see him being one of the guards, soldiers, or managers, because they're all treated like crap. And yeah, and I think it's very unlikely he becomes a contestant again, especially since they normally target people who are very, very poor and are desperate. So the only other person remaining is the Black Mask. Though technically, they actually mentioned that there are VIPs, so I suppose he could be one of them, so I don't know. But I think it is a better story if he's the guy in the Black Mask. But I'll get to that later, a little bit later, about why that is. But I've also been under the impression that the person in the Black Mask was the founder of these games altogether. So that seems like it's... I'm less sure. I'm a lot less sure about that now, given that I now think it's the cop's brother. But yeah, I think it was just last episode that I was talking about how Gi-hun was much more pleasant to be around since he came into these games because he didn't have to face all the things he was facing out in the real world. And I was talking about how he was so upbeat, kind to everybody, including Sae-byuk, who stole his money. But this episode, because of the situation he's in, he kind of starts evolving here too. Like first, we finally get a resolution to the tug of war, which that was amazing. 3 steps forward, and they all trip, and Gi-hun was dangling over the edge like that. Really, really tense. Really great scene. But they were able to gain the upper hand there, and yeah, as they were about to win, Gi-hun had a completely different look on his face. It was just this look of realization that he's about to murder these people. Like, obviously, he's seen so many people die in these games before, but to actually do it himself, I think that changes a person, and we'll see if that changes him going forward as well. And we also see him use his truth telling to get under Duksu's skin, telling him if that he was on Duksu's team, he'd kill him in his sleep because he's the strongest guy, the biggest threat to going all the way and winning. Just really, really got under his skin, which, yeah, we've seen another side of Gi-hun that I don't think we've seen before. And yeah, with the way the story's going, it does feel like we're going to continue to escalate. The first two games, you're playing against the game, everybody could have won, everybody could have lost. Whereas the third game, you're playing against other people, but not people you really know. So at some point, they're going to have to face their friends, and it's inevitable. And oh, it's going to suck so much. It's going to hurt so much. But yeah, number 240 continues to be interesting. After the tug of war, everyone is just so exhausted. And add on to the fact that they just killed a bunch of people. All of them were either very silent or that one guy was praying. And 240 was just kind of taunting him so casually. Like, I could understand if someone was annoyed enough to tell him to shut up, but for her to be like, oh, I pray that you help us bring more people to your side in death. And and then she's trying to be like friendly with Sebyok, but Sebyok is just like, leave me alone. Playing hard to get. Like, there's a reason she was drawn to 240 and asked her to join her. So yeah, I'm curious to see how their relationship continues to change throughout the next few episodes. And then we have 212. For me, she was kind of hilarious to watch the first 4 episodes, but wow, really made it easy to dislike her in this episode. And like, she was trying to work her way into the team's good graces by somehow ostracizing Ali. Sorry, we all love Ali, this wholesome boy, and just throwing in some real racist shit there. So, and then using the immigration status to put him down and suggesting to everyone that they shouldn't keep a foreigner on their team. Her loudness and brashness made her a very interesting character to watch, but she is a lot. She is so much. Yeah, again, great character to watch, but would never want to hang out with her in real life. And then we have Gi-hun. He has the idea to set up a barricade at night, and I think that's partially informed by his time striking against his company. And Ali and Cho Sang-woo take first watch, and Ali's so sweet, offering his corn to Cho Sang-woo. That sounded like a euphemism, offering his corn. Anyway, he offered it to Cho Sang-woo for all he's done for him, and they talk to each other about how they ended up in these games, and neither of them really want to get up into it. They just say the very generic, obvious answer, which is they came because they have no money. Well, like, you don't say, right? But yeah, Gi-hun is awoken to take the second watch, and he flashes back to that strike, and we get a really different context to why he missed his wife giving birth. He said before that somebody died on the job, but it turns out they were dying while they were on strike, and he was murdered on the job. So yeah, freaking capitalism, right? And it's really interesting that they used a strike after getting fired. I've never heard of that happening in the United States. Like, here we strike for fair compensation, a fair working environment. But I think for the most part, we accept, sadly, that layoffs are layoffs. But yeah, like, CEOs in companies sometimes get huge bonuses, and companies get larger and larger profits, and some even like get government subsidies, and then they fire their hourly workers anyway. And like, some people care, obviously, but the vast majority of people just don't give a damn. They're like, oh, like, the company has to do what the company has to do. So a part of me envies this idea in South Korea that you can just strike to protest getting fired, that there's hope to actually get your job back that way. And Gi-hun said that they were laid off because the company was struggling, so that's even more like understandable. Like, you don't have the money to pay your workers, so you cut down and cut back costs. Whereas in the United States, like, companies can be doing great and fire you, and people will still be like, oh, I need to look for another job, and there's no idea of like striking to protest it, right? At the same time, Gi-hun and his coworkers didn't get their jobs back. Someone was killed, so I don't know how exactly to feel in this situation, but it's just such a tragic situation with Gi-hun and his wife, though. It's super, super shitty and wrong that she had a medical emergency right before giving birth, and no one was there for her. Like, no one deserves to go through that on their own. And yet I can't blame Gi-hun entirely for missing it because of what he had to go through. It's just tragedy upon tragedy for these guys in this hell. But yeah, speaking of tragedy, the old man has a wild fever and is really getting too sick to play. Saebyuk gave her water to help cool him down, cool his fever off, which was sweet. But later she said it was just like, you owe me, like it was a loan, which Gi-hun kind of gives her a look of like, you have a lot of nerve after you stole my money, but I'm glad he doesn't bring it up again, because... But yeah, old man is in no place to compete any furthers. I've had my doubts about him, but at the very least, he can't fake a fever that easily, and he's not going to pee himself on purpose just for the sake of it, right? That would be ridiculous, but yeah, I originally thought that he might have been a previous contestant in these games and won and came back because he's old and bored because of the way he reacted when he first, in the first game, when he just continued walking when everybody else was frozen solid. And there was something really interesting later when the undercover cop flips through the pages of contestants. He opens the binder and it goes straight to player number 2. So I don't know if it's possible he accidentally flipped a page like past the first page, but it makes me feel like it was intentional that he doesn't have a page, right? I don't know. Could be a red herring, could be just to throw me off, but yeah, speaking of the brother, on to the undercover brother and this organ harvesting ring. The cop, he doesn't feel like the most intelligent cop. He's always constantly asking questions he very obviously should already know the answer to. And he almost lost it in there and shot everybody. He finally gets caught by his diving partner after asking too many questions, this specifically about the VIPs. And thankfully, he can turn the situation around because he has a gun. And we do get some information about the VIPs, so I'm sure we'll be finding out much more about them soon. But I've been saying from the start that there has to be some reality TV betting going on, right? So maybe that's what they're involved in. But the other guy, number 28, the guard, your alibi for not harvesting the organs of the cop's brother was that you were taking turns sexually assaulting an unconscious dying woman. That is not the best alibi you can come up with, man. What the heck? And I mean, that's deeply upsetting. And I kind of called it, only kind of, because back in episode 3, when the drivers were bringing all the people back to the games, it dawned on me that they could sexually assault whoever they wanted in those vans. But turns out they waited until such an upsetting moment to do it. So after this woman was marked for death after losing one of the games, they treated her as a disposable object to be used, and then they killed her by taking out her organs. Oh, that is sick. So sick. And yeah, the doctor started lashing out when he doesn't get the information on the next game, spiraling everything out of control. And yeah, he's chased to the end to where they were playing the honeycomb game. And yeah, he's trying to negotiate. He's trying to like fight back so he doesn't get killed. And then, yeah, hearing the guy was trying to convince him that to stand down, saying like, look, we're human. I'm human just like you. But after learning what they did, sexually assaulting that dying woman, it just pissed me off hearing him say like, oh, I'm human just like you. No, you're not. You're really, really not. And yeah, he was very careful not to kill the doctor by shooting him because it would lead back to them. He wanted to shiv him and then act like the other players did it. But the Black Mask intervenes, starts talking about fairness, about how they interfering with the fairness of the game is just so abhorrent somehow, which just fuck that guy so much, as if anything about these games are fair. And actually it convinces me even more that it's the cop's brother, or at the very least that it's extremely likely that to be a former player, because there's a great deal of luck in all of these games, even the first one, because people can run into you and knock you over. You might start out further in front of other people, and then the shapes in game 2, those are random, obviously, or you choose not knowing what the game is about. And then what team you're on in game 3 really comes down to a lot of luck too. But someone who made it to the end and won, they could very easily fall into the trap of thinking that the games operate as some sort of meritocracy. The one way for people to escape the capitalistic hellscape of the real world. And I think the captain wants to believe that he survived the games because he is superior and that he deserved it. And the only way to uphold that belief is to believe that the games are fair and equality he talks about. And he wants to believe that he didn't just luck into the win. And so when there's a blatant cheating, of course he has to intervene, but the games themselves, to believe that they're fair is something else entirely, and I think can only come from being in the games himself and just having this warped idea that he deserved to win. Anyway, Undercover Brother discovers so many files about the game. Going back to 1999 at the very least, we could have missed some files that went back even further. And these games have been going on for at least 20 years, so assuming around 456 people were taken each time, that's around 9,000 people that have gone missing without the police, government agencies, or whatever else intervening. And it's also at least 20 winners who just fucked right off after winning with all their money and just didn't try to stop all of this from happening, didn't try to make a better society out of this. And I don't know, it reminds me, all these people going missing and dying, it reminds me of the way indigenous people are treated and black people. For those of you who don't know, in the United States, those two groups go missing at much higher rates than other groups of people. And the best and only explanation for it is because they're being targeted by hate crimes. And I mean, society just doesn't care enough to figure out who is perpetrating this and why these people are going missing. And I get that Squid Game is fiction, but it's inspired, as all fiction is, by real life and real sentiments. So I have to imagine the writer recognized how the poor are being left behind by government agencies and people in power. And I mean, there are VIPs too, representing the elite and those in power, and they show how little they care about the plight of the poor people by enabling their disappearances and their murders. But yeah, the social commentary is strong with this show, and I am here for it. I've actually watched a few reactions to the first episode of this show, but I didn't want to go further in case they had theories that would spoil stuff. But nobody has really touched on the societal implications of this show. So do any of you guys know reactors, I guess not just to Squid Game, but to other things as well, that actually talk about important issues that they come up whenever they're reacting to it? I actually started YouTube because I didn't see anyone doing that in the context of reaction channels, but I would like to find others for sure, so please let me know any recommendations you have for other reactors. But anyway, yeah, 39 players now, no advantage for Duxu knowing any future games. I'm wondering if could be a strategic advantage to team up with any other of the 10 groups of 10, or 9, I guess. Though again, you can't really trust anybody. We saw that with Duxu not wanting to go after anybody in the dark again. But yeah, next episode, we might get another game. We still have 3 more games and only 4 more episodes to finish them in, so looking forward to it, kind of. I mean, I also don't... there's going to be so much bloodshed. I enjoy the show, but it's also hard to watch at times. But yeah, thank you, Danny, for editing this episode. Full reactions are available on Patreon in the link in the description below. We are at least 2 weeks ahead over there. Check my community posts to see my schedule for YouTube and Patreon. I might be further ahead, maybe or maybe not, but at least 2 weeks ahead. But yeah, thanks for watching. Leave a like, really helps with the channel, and I will see you guys next time with more. Bye, friends.